I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
From the gates of Mount Rome to the far corners of the endless highway, wherever you are, welcome to the show.
So you believe in some kind of Armageddon?
Yeah, most definitely. We in the last times and days right now. The Illuminati's in effect.
My guest today is someone I've spoken with at length before. He's very knowledgeable. He's a fun guy to be around. He's the host of the Occult Rejects podcast. Nick, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We were getting a little rowdy there in the
Yeah.
before I hit record. I wanted to say something about Aquino before we move off of that real quick. This is what I've heard, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but I heard that Aquino went to the castle of Wewelsburg, where that was Himmler's castle during the war, and it did like a stay over there.
I never heard.
Okay.
I mean, to be totally honest with you, there's probably a lot about that guy I've never looked into before.
Yeah, sure.
Certain things that have come up with like psyops and like the Franklin
Yeah.
his name, and you're just like, oh.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially the psyop thing, because I think it's been a while since I looked into him, but one of the things that I came across was, he was very, very much involved with government and military, and he was in a program called a psyop. They actually used the word psyop in the program. And I don't remember anything else about it, but I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
What a character, though. What a character.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to look into it. I'm pretty sure that was an accurate source about the Wewelsburg Castle. If that's true, that's very crazy because that was Himmler's castle. Himmler started the he had like a knockoff Knights Templar thing going on there with the SS.
Was that the big castle where he did have like all those? He had that thing on the floor and he had those things, all the fire. Oh, that okay.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know the specific name to that castle.
Yeah, so he had a black sun on the floor symbol.
Yeah.
And apparently Aquino went in there and was doing something, and I think that he got some ideas from the Nazis' concept of the black sun and was working with something like that, like an inner earth energy kind of a thing.
Maybe.
But
I would say, like, even from like, because we were talking about, I had a guest on that was from the Temple of Set, and from even a lot of the stuff that I got from them, he at least, and he was friends with Aquino, seemed to be very much into mathematics, actually. So I'm wondering if there's anything with just the design itself and the mathematics.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give them credit on anything, but I mean, they are the guy that was on my show was obviously educated. Just saying.
Yeah, so you had a guy on, he is in the Temple of Set. Aquino started that, and this guy was very versed in math. Or what about sacred geometry?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, because like at one point, like Jin on the show asked him a question that was like from one of his friends. Like he told one of his friends he was going on the show with this guy, and he's like, "Oh my God, you got to ask him this question," because he knew who he was. And he asked him, I couldn't remember what it was, but he spent about 20 minutes trying to like basically explaining like the sigil. I was just like, their logo. And I was like, what the hell? I got lost at one point. I was like, you guys lost me. I was like, I'm not giving the guy, like, I think I just, whatever. I don't think he's stupid.
Mm-hmm. When you were, and I don't know how much you like to go into this topic, so just feel free to answer it however you want, or not answer it at all. But like, I know that you were in an order at one point.
Yep. Oh, you can
How?
ask anything you want. Ask
Okay.
anything.
So so
Yeah.
so
Nothing is not. Yeah. Ask
okay,
it.
cool, awesome, man. So what order were you in? And what I was getting at is like, how much did that come into play for you? Like shapes, sigils, maybe even math. How much of that kind of stuff did you work with?
I mean, again, like I would say these places probably suggest you to do things. It's not like my experience at the beginning, at least the first, within the first 4 degrees, I would assume none of them really kind of force you to learn anything, but they're suggested. But in my practice, sigils, yes.
Mhm.
Shapes, yes. What was the other? Oh, yeah, gematria and math I got into later on because I'll be totally honest with you, at the beginning it was just a little too intimidating. I really wasn't sure what the hell it was all about. I wasn't really into the Kabbalah as much like the first probably like year or so, maybe year and a half of getting into magic. But once I did, I started to get a little bit more of the idea with gematria, and then I started, math was definitely a part of it. Even when you get into the Kabbalah and all the numbered spheres and all that stuff, you start realizing, they're for a reason. Numbers are important.
Yeah, is Hebrew come into play there?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Even like some of the rituals that are suggested to do in these orders, and that most ceremonial magicians will use, like the pentagram and the hexagram ritual. They will have some Hebrew in them. The Star Ruby that Aleister Crowley wrote, which a lot of Thelemites or OTO people will use, or people are even into his stuff. That's Greek, So it's like, you're actually using like different languages.
I've always seen Hebrew as almost like a very numerical, very mathematical kind of a language.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they even kind of have some of the Hebrew figures even look kind of like numbers
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in a way,
For
like with
sure.
the angles and stuff, and like just the way they're like formed and everything. And I had this guy on who was breaking down, he was looking for mathematical code within the Torah. And so I, I think what he was really looking for was like some sort of a Bible code, but he went to the Torah instead because the code was showing up big time because of the Hebrew.
Yeah. So I
And
definitely there's something probably there too.
yeah, and
Probably
the
even in English too.
and the Hebrew figures, this is what he was explaining to me. They had multiple meanings, almost like a hieroglyph would.
Yes. Yes, they do. They do. Yeah. Like ox, back of your head, open hand, closed hand, goad. Yeah. Eyes.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. They have multiple meanings to them, and they were designed like that from inception. Most believe it or not, most languages, if you were to look into it, most languages at inception are actually created with the numerical system together. They are actually tied numerically. Each letter has a numerical value. I mean,
There
that's even
was
the what is it, alphanumeric system?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. There was a guy that I was looking into briefly, and I don't remember his name right now, but he wrote a book about the magic of runes, the Nordic runes. That seemed to be very
Stephen
numeric as
Flowers,
well. What's that?
Stephen Flowers, maybe.
No, I don't think so. This guy was from like the 1700s or something, I think.
Oh, okay. All right,
Way
maybe.
back, old school stuff. He was like, I found him because I was looking into like Tycho Brahe and
Oh, wow. Okay.
Kelpius, Johannes Kelpius.
Yes. Yes.
And there was some guy that was running with them who was kind of a part of their crew, I think, who got really into the runes, and he wrote a book. Like he just dedicated a big chunk of his life to like looking into the magical side of the runes. I'll try to find it later and give you the name if you're
That's
interested.
interesting. Those guys were real big into, if I remember correctly, kind of like outer space, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were early. They were early in that
As
field.
you
Like,
said Tycho, I was like, whoa.
yeah.
I haven't had. Damn. Impressive, dude. Nice.
Well, there's a couple of those guys that are very interesting because it's like you can see where society takes these like shifts. It's like, okay, we had two guys at one point alive together. Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, and you can see where the powers that be decided to use the tech and go with like Edison. But if we would have went with Tesla, we'd probably be living in a different society right now. We'd be our approach to like energy and everything would be totally different, and resources and everything. And I think it's the same with like Tycho and some of those guys. Like I think they were at like this pivotal point in history, and their work kind of got left behind. And they, it's like society went with another version of the space concept and what we think about it with that. I'd love to do something more on him because I was just kind of browsing him, man. I was looking more into Kelpius, and I found Tycho Brahe, but all those guys are fascinating.
Isn't one interesting thing that when you start looking into those people and even the people who have set the stage of like, at first we thought we were the center of the universe, then we thought the sun was the center of the universe.
Yeah.
All those motherfuckers are occultists.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like, we have occultists who are telling us what's in the skies. That's
Yeah.
That's think about. And then we got NASA doing it now, which is pretty much the same shit.
And then you've got guys who this is one of the craziest things that I've come across is like the esoteric Christians who nobody talks about.
Well, that was a big thing. Like even within the Catholic Church, I was going to even say this before because I do think there might be something there. If you start looking like around, I think like between like the 15 and 1700s, like certain people that were well known, like within the Catholic Church, even Jesuit priests, they started incorporating the Kabbalah into the Bible to try to understand it better. And supposedly they started getting like breakthroughs, like understanding. So there must be something even with that. I do wonder. When you even have people in the Catholic Church even being like paying mind to Kabbalah to understand the Bible more.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I had a guy on recently and we were talking about how in the book of Proverbs, I think Solomon wrote that, and he keeps talking about wisdom, right? But like wisdom with like a capital W. He's talking about wisdom. He's personifying wisdom as if it's an entity or a person or a personality. We were talking about like what if, because the Gnostics said that wisdom, they called wisdom Sophia, right? So we're trying to figure out, is the Bible in Proverbs, or is Solomon alluding to like a spirit or an entity here when he's talking about wisdom? And the more I looked into it, the more I kept seeing that you kind of had to go to the Kabbalah to find the answers for that. Because I've got a thing in my phone where I went and I found the Kabbalah had all this extra information on that.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to remember the terms in there, like world tree stuff. It's just crazy stuff. It was over my head.
I feel like when you take Catholicism and try mixing like the Kabbalah into it, you actually kind of birth out in a sense almost like Gnosticism.
Mm.
It's because you start like, Hermetic Kabbalah, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hermeticism.
because you can start almost attributing like certain characters for certain roles, depending on how like what's it easier for you to understand or whatever. It's hard to explain, but
Yeah, I hear you.
you start getting like almost like kind of like a cult, Catholicism, almost to an extent when it comes to Gnosticism.
Well, so you were working with Hebrew and Kabbalah. You said
I'm still big into that now in Gematria.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've used Hebrew Gematria before. I don't know. I'm where I am with Gematria. I think it's interesting, but I'd like to know more about how it works. What's the technology behind Gematria? It's like I know now we have it in like a software form where you can just get online and punch in numbers and get phrases back. But what's like the technology behind that?
Normally, I think if it's really being used a lot, maybe ciphers, or it's just to replace a word with something that has the same value to it.
Yeah.
But like ciphers are kind of huge. I think it also just does help. Like, believe it or not, I think like when you do actually see other words that equal the same value, how like they could say like a symbol has like 7 meanings to it. Like sometimes I do think like that's one of them. And like somewhere in there, you'll find a match that I think you'll be like, all right, that actually fits in with everything. It's hard to explain, but like there's even things that I've noticed like with occultism, certain things that like you'll just start getting eye parts and it makes sense almost. And like I do think that that is a part. I mean, when the polymaths were into occultism, they included physiology into the understanding of it. So you start wondering, like, is that part of it too? Yeah.
Yeah, it all seems to be connected. It all seems to be connected. The
That's
other,
another thing I'm big into myself is actually trying to like the eyes in the brain and like occult symbolism within the body.
yeah, yeah, it's almost like we have a physical connection. I'll just use that word again, like a physical connection to all this stuff. Like, I don't know, what do you think, man? Like, do you think that we are, do you think there's another realm like right up next to ours or multiple realms and we like interact with that?
That could be possible, yeah. I think that at some point, like when you have a magical experience, like I think I've told you that it's more or less like to me, practicing real magic, I do think you're kind of like separating your soul from your body. And like if you do something to that extent, you're not like in this reality anymore the way you see it because you're not in the flesh. Like it's just different. So I do think magic, like you're already kind of throwing yourself into another reality. And I have heard other people, in which I think Enochian magic may be, is like kind of like picking times and places that you want to go to specific.
Hmm.
There's
Well,
even like certain visions that I've heard other people see that like almost gives you like an idea that there's options of like choices or times that you can go, like visions, like, oh, I'll go there. That looks interesting. I'll go to that one. It's almost like windows or doors. And I do think that those are options of places to go. Almost
I've
like OA. If you ever watched OA, you know how those like
yeah.
jumping to go. I do think, as silly as that sounds, I'm not saying I've done it or I even want to entertain it because I probably don't, but I do think that stuff's possible.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard you talk about crossing the abyss, and we can get into that if you want to tell all that today, you
Yeah,
can. But
but
I that's why I asked you about the realms thing, because
yeah.
I'm trying to comprehend what that means, like what crossing the abyss means, because to me it and I could be wrong, but to me it kind of sounds like stepping into like another realm. But maybe that's not the right terminology. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, like, and I hate trying to explain it like this because I don't want to try to make it sound like edgy or like dark or anything, but like, I just like, I guess like if you can't experience death, what's after death unless you have experience, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not going to be in physical form. It's going to be a completely different, you're in spirit. You're not, can't, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You're
Mhm.
totally different. You're going somewhere else. You're totally different. I guess, rules of law, how reality is, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
To be solid.
Okay, what about dimensions instead of using the
Yeah, it
word
would probably
realms?
be dimensions. I mean, that'd probably be the easiest way to explain it. I mean, that's what it does seem like. It's just different dimensions.
I mean, that's certainly the term they're using with science today.
It would
They've
make it,
really,
yeah.
yeah.
I can see that making it a lot easier to say. Yeah.
I mean, I've got because I just did a big thing on
Dimensions, timelines, maybe you can call them. Who knows?
yeah, yeah. I just did a big thing on decoding CERN. I did a huge occult decode on CERN recently, and I got all that stuff like swirling around in my head. But I was looking into like articles, and I even got online and I saw like I was watching like talks that the physicist at CERN was giving, and they're all talking about dimensions. Like they admit that they're tapping into another dimension. And this guy from CERN, the physicist, was talking about how to create black holes and how that interacts with our dimension. So that does seem to be the word they're using.
Oh, I think it's a fitting word for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's just, when you say that, I don't want it to sound too sci-fi either.
I
You
hear
know?
you. I hear
Yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. I'm laughing because when you said that, I started thinking about what's his name, who was doing magic with Parsons before he started the Church of Scientology.
Oh God, Hubbard.
Hubbard, because he would make things very sci-fi.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I was writing sci-fi books
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
I
yeah.
already knew what to do. Yeah, yeah, but
I
yeah,
think you're good, my friend. You're not taking it that far.
no, no. I'm still confused on what there was. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
uh, but yeah, yeah. I would just say I do think to an extent I do think you do actually kind of it's a near death experience for sure. Put it that way. So, I mean, and it was not what I thought magic was going to be about at all. I did not think that that was a part of it.
So, what was a near death experience for you? Was it just okay? Was it like, did you have multiple near death experiences while you're practicing magic, or did you have one crazy supernatural or whatever you want to call it, one crazy experience where you
I've probably, oh God, I don't know how many times. Probably, I don't know, 6 to 7 times. I probably actually did it
hmm
uh, on purpose.
hmm
3 times I did it in like a week, and that actually I do think that kind of fucks you up if you do it too often. But I mean, it's done through like meditation that you'll. I do think that like when the magic happens, I do think you're actually like you're kind of slowing down your body and you're slipping out a little bit. And I do think you click out for a little bit for a second, and you go somewhere that is not here for sure. And then there's times where like now I haven't done that in a minute. I'll be totally honest with you. I'll take myself to the edge. Like whenever this happens, now there's always a set of visuals and feelings that always come with it. Like I already always know, like after this, it's like, do or die. Literally. I got, you know, and so I know like if I start thinking of self, like you can take yourself out of it for me. So I'll take myself to the like the I guess to the ledge, and I do get benefits out of that with meditating. I do think, but I have not like gone that far. But yeah, I do honestly think that when you do that, even from the feelings that I've had and what goes on with the body, and even the situation with that one time I said it, I did it a couple of times within a week. I mean, I actually was so physically uncomfortable, I ended up going to the hospital, and I did have issues, and it was like stuff that never reoccurred again. So that was even I had even like my eyes were even like one pupil was bigger than the other one for like weeks.
after doing
After,
this?
yeah. I've even posted on Twitter. It was years ago. Like one time, I brought myself really close to a meditate, like that, real close, and stopped, and my pupils were up. I even took a picture of them and posted on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like like I said earlier, like it's almost like there's a physical connection with us and you know whatever we want to call that other dimension. It's like because that sounds like you stepped into another dimension and when you came back or came back into yourself into this one, like it messed with you physically, actually.
I do think I actually think in order to do what you're doing, I do think you do may actually like burn shit up or use stuff in your body. As crazy as that sounds.
Like some kind of a fuel, like a metaphysical fuel for
Yeah,
something.
that or it's like it kind of all your like your body runs on electricity. It kind of like you
Oh
have to
yeah.
shoot it back out, kind of like you kind of alternating current, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. While you're talking, like I'm thinking about stuff I've read concerning Tibetan monks when they get super deep into meditation and even remote viewers. I've heard some crazy stories like that. Well, where they will like whatever it's called, bio relocate or whatever. They'll find. So Jacques Vallée has the story about his first time remote viewing with Ingo Swann or something. They gave him
Oh shit.
coordinates and they sent him to like a top of a mountain somewhere. Like it was real cold. And he said he felt the cold, and there was a snowy mountain peak. And he actually went there for a minute or two. And it physically was shivering. That's what this reminds me of, at least. I'm not trying to like take your,
Oh, I think astral projection is like real close to like the same.
yeah,
I, my experience might be a little bit farther, but I think astral projections, like I would consider that magic too, in a sense.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, man. Because I mean, you're
Or I would
yours.
even say, is that picking one of the windows?
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know. Maybe that is it. Maybe that's more advanced than what I've done. I have no idea.
Well, that's what LeVay's kids were talking about. They talked about how they were taught to go into the astral realm.
You should have Carl Crusher. Friends with that guy. You should have him on. He does shit like that. And he's friends with a lot of
What's his name? Carl Crush?
Carl Crusher.
Okay.
Yeah. He's actually, if you get in touch with him now, like he's my boy and everything, but like the
Mhm.
people he's messing with, he's kind of throwing himself right into the lines. Then, so you know who these people are, right? Like he's getting involved with people that are claiming And I think I've actually worked for the government remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
You
I know,
might
man.
talk to him. Talk to him. He might. He's a good dude. Good dude. Really nice guy. Awesome. I have him on the show all the time. Talk to him about remote viewing for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I love remote viewing. I love
And he does it
studying it.
himself too. He does it himself too. And there's been certain things I think he's legit. I'll just be honest. I think he could do it.
I think it's legit too.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
do.
he told me shit that was in my closet that he wouldn't have like known. I'm totally honest with
Oh,
you.
really? You did
Yeah,
you put him to the test?
Yeah, and I was like, that's fucking. It actually weirded me out. I'll tell you the truth. He did it like after a show.
Wow. I mean, I've always thought that I've always had the inclination that something real is happening with remote viewers. I know a remote viewer as well, and they just don't. They don't BS, dude. They don't make up stories. Like they're just like, it is what it is. And we have these long standing government programs. Like if it didn't work, they wouldn't have a 20-year remote viewing program, but we have documents to prove that they
I
have.
think this stuff is legit. And be honest, most of those people probably, like you're saying, are telling the truth. It's just the way they're presenting it and telling you what's really going on. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're not telling you that this is like magic or
Yeah.
somebody's somewhere and the government's making them be able to do this. They're actually pushing like occult principles onto this person. You know what I'm saying? It's like practically almost MK Ultra. If you're going to make somebody be able to do this,
Yeah.
that's my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like they're not explaining like these are the side effects of having a magical experience. And death may be involved in that. That's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole secret that they're leaving out, in my opinion, part of it. What if you told people, everybody, that you have a magical experience, you actually have to kind of have an experience like Jesus and die? Or if they thought that everybody who actually literally practices magic and understands the occult, like people running the world, they do that constantly. That's so freaky. I think that would actually be one of the secrets they don't want people to know, because that actually sounds sick if you start thinking about it.
I've had this thought too. Yeah,
Because if someone's willing to keep taking that chance, knowing I may not come back, what do you think they think about everybody else if they're a megalomaniac? That's why they have no problem killing people, because they have no problem if they happen to die around with magic to gain knowledge that others don't know.
No, it does seem like an occult technology. Like going back to remote viewing too, that seems like an occult method or a magical method that the government found out about, and they tried to make it look scientific. That's what they do with everything. They try to cloak it in science and make it and act like there's nothing spiritual or magical happening.
I think our country and Germany are like perfection.
Yeah, for sure, Germany.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
weaponizing magical effects and stuff.
I mean, yeah, that if we didn't get it from the Nazis got it from us.
No, sometimes if you look back far enough, certain things, it's like, well, who actually started this first? It's like you see something that's like, you see how it eventually grew into something bigger. Like,
yeah, and not just the Nazis.
Even the thing with us, like the Cub Scouts. Like the Nazis actually got their brown coats from our Cub Scouts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Oh yeah. They were. I was reading something recently where the Nazis were over in German in like their newspapers and stuff. They were praising the United States for their eugenics program back in the early 30s.
Oh yeah, that is hilarious.
We had a eugenics program. Not to get too off topic here,
Kellogg's were crazy into that shit.
Our government seems like they kind of started to disband the eugenics thing in the 30s and 40s, but before that, the Nazis loved it. They modeled what they did after some of the stuff we were doing. So yeah, man, like who got it from who? And it's not just the Nazis. Like before the Nazis came into power, there was a huge occult revival happening over there in the early to late, maybe early, but definitely late 1800s, turn of the century. Theosophy, Golden Dawn, it was a huge. The Masons were there, huge occult revival happening in Germany, and I think it sent ripples over here to us.
1500s is huge over in Germany, popping off with the COVID.
Did you say 1500s?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It goes back to
1500s. Huge.
Oh, it goes clear back to Paracelsus. Yeah, in the 1500s, for sure, man, for sure. I'm selling it short by saying 1800s because you're absolutely right. That occult movement. See, I saw it picking up in my research. I saw a huge pickup in the occult just interest in the occult over there in the late 1800s, but it didn't start then. I mean, like you're
A
saying,
lot
man.
of occultists that might have came from other places, and somehow they always make it to Germany and either like
Yeah,
hanging out a book too, while they're there. You know what I'm saying? It's just real interesting. It's like you almost think like they're going there for a reason.
yeah, yeah. And it's also it's like not just Germany, but it's a lot of places like right next to Germany, like Basel, Switzerland, or
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
yeah, right there on the border.
Basil, yeah, it's one that does pop up often.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
That's a Basel's a wild. That's a fun deep dive, man. Like the stuff that was coming out of Basel in the 1500s, like some of the books. I'm trying to remember the name of one. I think it's the Arbatel of Magic. You ever heard of that book?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I covered that on the show a long time ago. The architect.
Yeah.
Somebody else covered it kind of on my show. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that
I
that
had
one,
that book in PDF. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it comes out of Basel.
It might. Yeah. There are a lot of books that came out around
Hmm.
that thing too.
That book is crazy.
Yeah. No, those are old books. Yeah, that
Hmm.
was stuff that I used to look at when I was in the OTO. So
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, let's talk about that, man. Like I don't. Um, what do you want to do here? Because I'm having fun with the conversation, but I also want if you want to be able to tell your story about the abyss, I want to give you that opportunity. Or
it's
we
really up to you, man.
should we let's go into what got you into OTO because I actually don't know this.
Okay.
I'd love to know
All right,
this.
yeah, yeah. Uh, got into conspiracies probably around 2010,
Hmm.
and around then, for me, when I first kind of like started coming across stuff, a lot of it was Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tsarian, David Icke, Project Camelot, if anybody remembers them. Who else? I'm trying to think of other people. God, who's that other guy? Some Mark Passio. He's still around. They all focused on the occult a lot at some point. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of got me a little bit more interested in the occult aspect of conspiracies. And I started to believe that this stuff was probably legit. I did think magic was possibly real. There was like something hidden out there that we don't understand, forces, energies, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I was always kind of like big into that. And I kind of like, just whenever I got into conspiracy and stuff, I would listen to a lot of other things, but that was just the main thing that I focused on and listening about different types of beliefs and all this and that. And then they start like looking into orders and like, oh, who's doing what, who's where, this and that. And, I the same shit that a lot of us podcast about, literally. I was interested in stuff like that. And then like one day it clicked in my head. I was like, yo, I still don't know what fuck magic is. Like I'm just following names and dates and orders and places. Like I still haven't figured out what the hell are they doing. you know. So I was like, let me start looking into this stuff. I started looking into stuff like online, and for me, I wasn't into witchcraft really. I just felt like I don't know how to explain it. I just felt like ceremonial magic and orders might have been a little bit more regimented and actually like kind of like a system. I don't want to be like involved in something where it's like, oh yeah, just throw some lavender over your shoulder and spin around with a crystal and you're good to go. Now, what I'm saying? I want like there to be like some substance to what I'm doing or learning actually. So I started like kind of like looking into like the Golden Dawn. Um, I actually wasn't a big fan of Crowley, so that's why I like looked into the Golden Dawn stuff. Wasn't anything near me. I wasn't going to get involved in the Masons because that would take way too long for me to ever get into practicing magic. I did know of the OTO because of Crowley, and I did have some of his books or read some of his stuff. Some of his books are highly suggested to read if you're into that stuff. And there was like a book that I had. It was Donald Craig, I think. It was like the 12 or 13 Lessons of Magic. It was one of the first books I bought to kind of like get into. And he did quote Crowley, and like some of the stuff in there might have been Crowley's. Um, so I was like, all right, let me see if there's an OTO. There's one 25 minutes away. I was like, damn, I guess I'll just go there. And they're not that secret to find.
Mm.
Again, I found one near my house, not too far away. They all have like social media. Somehow they'll be like, even on the website, the OTO website, they'll let you know where the orders are so you can contact them if you want to go. And I found that one and I contacted them somehow. It was Facebook, email, something, whatever, one of their contacts. And I told them I was interested in coming to a Gnostic Mass. And I think they gave me their calendar or whatever. I already saw the calendar and knew the date and told them which one I wanted to come for. And they're like, all right, the day of, just let us know. I was like, all right, cool. the day. I emailed them, let them know, and then they gave me like it was like obviously like kind of like a copy paste thing. It was like directions from all different places, the address, the situation. One thing I did think was weird, was a little creepy about it off the bat, was that, but I understand now because of the situation. At first, I was like, "Yo, what the is going on?" It was like an apartment building in Queens, and there was a park across the street. And this apartment building, like, you need a key to get into the fuck.
All right.
So it's basically in the directions. It's like, there's park benches across the street from the gate. Go hang out there, and we'll come out and get you. And I'm just like, oh my god, like this is already weird. And like I turned the corner because I parked a few blocks away at Queens, and like, there was a bunch of people standing there. So I was like, okay. I was like, at least I'm not standing here by myself. Like I could already tell, like, just from looking at them, they must be there for that.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
By the way they were dressed, I was like, yep, that's them. Whatever. I ended up going in. It was a Gnostic mass. It was a little different than that. You can find it on YouTube. You find it. If you really want an honest representation of it, I would try to find. I think David Shoemaker's one on Vimeo. The Gnostic mass. But it's a little different. But I did know, like, kind of, I had an idea what I was getting into. The difference is on YouTube, you will not see the boobies. The Gnostic mass. So that took me off guard because I had not. I've watched the YouTube version. And I watched it. I was like, oh, all right, this is kind of like church, for them. This is a little weird, but, it's different. I was like, I think I can handle this. It was like, nothing crazy. And, yeah, I was there, and all of a sudden, hits around. I was like, oh.
Was it anything like some of the scenes in Strange Angel? Did you ever see that Jack Parsons show?
Oh, yeah, where the priestess is topless for a part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, you will get that. And, it's like literally like, I don't know, a few minutes. But whatever. It freaked me out, and I was like, if it gets any different than this, I'm getting out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but yeah, and somehow that wasn't weird enough that I probably stayed about 6 years after that. I did go. The second time I went back though was for classes because that was. They did offer classes. They had like history classes too on like certain people or certain like errors maybe or types of magic or people occultists. They would cover stuff like that too. It wasn't just always,
sure,
Gnostic mass and rituals. So I did do a lot of those things. And I was like, all right, there's some sort of benefit here. And like, I can meet people and get ideas, to bounce ideas around and learn from. But obviously I didn't stay. Eventually I realized this isn't the place for me. It was interesting. I'm glad I went because I do think like by the time I left, I knew like who I wanted to be and who I didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I left.
Well,
yeah.
I'm thinking about it in these.
I went through a couple of degrees too. I'll just throw that.
Okay. Well, that's what I was kind of going to allude to. It's like I've worked a job. I'm thinking about one of the jobs in particular I've worked, and I was there for six years as well. And when you spend that much time doing something, you become part of the place. It becomes part of you. So I imagine you learned a ton. 6 years you learn a lot in 6 years.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I would say, throughout that time, my idea of magic, even though it was never what I thought it was, that had changed. My understanding of it, things that I studied. Again, like I had even said, I didn't really get into Kabbalah my first year and a half. And like, I was in the OTO for a good part of that. And like, it is heavily Kabbalistic. And I still was just like, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And then once I finally got into it, I was like, what was I waiting for? I was like, I love this shit. It's so mind bending.
Yeah. And let me rephrase something. Not that the OTO became part of you, because that's not, because you seem like you were
no, but it did have a few hooks in me. But luckily there was certain things that was said while I was there that they told you at one point to go any further. Like they did, they let you know certain things at the end of one of the initiations. I was like, well, I will never ever be able to do that. So then at that point, I knew my time was off. But I might have stayed longer. I don't think I would have been a lifetime person, but I'm glad I left. I'm a much better person.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it was going to make me an evil person. I just think like it was extremely liberal.
Oh, I hear you.
Like extremely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I could see that. I know there's some there's some people who I'm friends with on Instagram, And it seems like the more liberal leaning people tend to be in either occult or like ghost hunting. I don't know why that is.
Yeah. No, no, you're onto something with that.
I
Holy
don't know
shit.
why that
Right.
is, but
That is
and I
very
just I just
interesting.
said that on the podcast. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying that about any of the ghost hunters I've had on my show, but I have noticed that when it's
yeah,
when
yeah.
certain ghost hunters to have on my show.
It's not all of them. It's not
Yeah,
all of them,
no,
but
no. That is something that I have noticed. I was like, yo, is something up with that? I
what's
was like,
up with
fuck.
that?
I was like, it started making me wonder, like, what about ghost adventures? And like, what about ghost hunters? Like, I wonder what their ideas are.
Well, maybe it's because
I'm like, were
like
they libtards? And I never noticed.
maybe it's because if you look at like yeah, not to get political or anything
No,
like
I
that,
know.
but it has changed. Like the goalpost has changed. What it means to be a liberal 10 years ago is not what it means today. Like things have,
Oh,
but it seems like, to join an order like that or to be interested in it, you have to be open-minded. So
oh,
maybe,
yeah, yeah.
maybe it's like that open-minded thing. Like they're,
Well, I think you know what the bad thing is. Well, I don't say it's just for me. And like again, like I'm not even trying to be harsh about it, but it's just like, all right, when you're in these things, and especially for me, if you kind of feel weird or like even not weird, but like I obviously didn't specifically fit in completely because I mean, even just the way I looked, people saw me in the streets, they would have no idea I'm into this shit, really. Everybody that you can't tell. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
So even when I walk in, I stand out like a sore thumb. So like I just always like so like either camaraderie, once you like, all right, I take Minerva, all of a sudden they start calling you brother or sibling or whatever, even though that's not supposed to be said until first degree. So they already start saying things like that. So it gives you a sense of belonging and it starts making you feel good. And then you, oh, all right, these people are cool. That's not bad. And then things that you thought probably a year ago, that's straight up mental illness, now maybe not be because, they're not too bad. Now, I'm not saying that they're a horrible person because they're mentally ill. No. But you start changing things in your mind to justify the situation you're in. And before you know it, I'm not even thinking the same person I was a year coming in.
Makes
And I
sense.
struggled with that at times. I said, in order for me to even walk in this place and stomach it, sometimes I actually have to like really like kind of, I don't know, shut shit off.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess, that's kind of a magician thing to do anyway. If you want to get what you want, you're going to have to, I guess to an extent, unless you're going to sell your ass, but you have to have a GPS, I guess, and you find a way to get to the destination that you want. So I guess if I wanted to keep learning and thought it was there, I had to deal with it. But it was just, at times I was just like, I normally would not even associate with you.
Here's a rookie question.
I'm not even trying to be mean. It's just like, all right, you're cool. It's just we don't need to hang out or like talk, and I don't have to act like I like you all the time.
I
We can
get
be
it.
respectful.
Yeah, I get
Certain
it.
things like that. You just start finding you change a little bit.
It's like that with like, not to just keep going back to making the analogy of working a job, but you take a job, you're around a bunch of people you wouldn't normally hang out with and you start being cool with them,
Well, that
because
happens. It's a good way to even use that as an example. Podcasting, depending on what
sure,
group of circles you start getting into, all of a sudden you're supposed to hear certain ideas and people.
sure. Yeah. Oh,
That's
absolutely.
when I left the OTO and came into podcasting. I was like, "Yo, this ain't any different."
Yeah. I know, man. I know. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna bite my tongue for this one, but I
No,
know
no, no.
exactly
I'm not
what you're
trying to,
saying.
I'm just saying. I think everybody does. Everybody who knows, it's just it is
Yeah.
what it is. What it.
Yeah.
Anything you
So, but I'm sorry. I gotta ask this, and I know
yeah,
it's
yeah. Go
like
for
this
it.
is
Go
like
for it. Any
amateur.
question you want to ask me? And again, like I said, any answer, I'll answer as honestly as best as I can. There's no secrets for me. I don't give
All
a shit.
right. What's the first thing that they teach you when you get in there? Can you disclose that or?
Well, I guess all right. I mean, disclosing it, I guess, like, all right, well, I mean, they don't really teach you. They suggest that you learn like the pentagram ritual and the hexagram ritual now. I guess teaching you, I mean, I guess you would consider that stuff that you do with the initiations.
Okay.
There's certain things that will teach you like a word. They will teach you a grip, and they will even teach you like a sign that you'll do. And yeah, Minerval, the first one that they give you is on, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, it's the name of God, and I was like, I heard that in a Jordan Maxwell video 12 years ago. Thanks. Like, wow, that's what I was waiting for. And then here's another name of God. then they give you like how you do the handshake. You stick out your thumb, and somebody's supposed to come over and squeeze it 12 times.
So
And then
they acknowledge God, not in a Christian sense, but they acknowledge God.
yeah, yes. Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Different words for it.
Okay, I didn't know that. See that?
Yeah.
What is on? Is that what is that derivative of? What language is that?
To tell you the truth, off the top, I couldn't tell you. I do know I mean, the first three initiations, if I remember correctly, they're all kind of taking place over by Heliopolis. Like in
Greek.
the Minerval, you're heading to Heliopolis, but
Okay.
like you're also getting picked up by like Sufi dudes, like
Sure.
so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with maybe that.
Sufi is Middle Eastern mysticism, right?
Yeah. The first three are pretty much dealing with that whole type of like scenario and situation and area. Yeah.
So
Which,
Greek.
which I thought was weird because in the second degree they make you stand in the corner and hold a sword, but the sword ain't bent like one over there. It's a straight sword. So now that doesn't even match the area I'm in or even the time, maybe. Weird, right?
Yeah. That's
I
weird.
bet you there's a reason for that though. There's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, there's probably a reason. Things change over time. Who knows? But like the hexagram and the pentagram ritual are those are two different things.
Yes. The pentagram. You're basically dealing with elemental energies. Well, you're dealing with elemental energies here. The hexagram rituals, you're starting to like tap into planetary energies, or you can start using that with like the Kabbalah, like ideas with the Kabbalah, because again, like you can even attribute planets to the Kabbalah tree.
Hmm.
So, and then you can start kind of like working with aspects of the Kabbalah in a sense.
Okay, so
And that is done obviously with a hexagram. You'll be drawing a hexagram or different variations of a hexagram for that ritual, and it's a lot more. It's a lot more to it. Yeah.
okay, so that's interesting because we talked about this book a minute ago, Herbatel Magic, and I picked up one of the concepts I picked up on in that book is this idea of the elementals and then the planetary. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, in that book, the planetary were called Olympic spirits, and then the elementals were like the sylphs, nymphs, dryads. There's
Oh
like a
yeah.
panel of
You can. I think the sills you attribute that with air.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the oh wow, that's another thing I totally forgot. Yes, Star Mattel has the Olympic spirits in there. There is
But
there's
you guys weren't working with spirits; you were working with the concept, right?
uh
Or
well with them in there. I'm trying to think. Whenever I did, I guess the Gnostic Mass is kind of representative of somebody crossing the abyss. On the Book of the Day, the Book of the Law was written. Fuck, 8th, 9th, and 10th or somewhere around there. I probably fucked that up. Oh, that's why that guy said 4/8 has nothing to do with Thelema. Because April 8th, that's the day of the Book of the Law. Sorry, it's not a brain fart. Yeah, so some guy said some shit to me and I didn't
it's the
understand.
ghost of
Said that.
podcast past.
Yeah, no, I had somebody on who's releasing a book and it's coming out on 4/8, and I was like, I love that date. Not even because I like 48 for a different reason. Totally forgetting. I think that's the first day of the written of the Book of the Law, and that's probably why he said there's no reason behind that date. I don't want Thelemites getting all excited for nothing. And I
Okay,
didn't understand that connection, and now it just clicked in my head. Wow.
cool.
So yeah, the book had written on 8th, 9th, and 10th, and those dates, the lodge, there's a lodge, there's oases and camps. I would assume as long as they have enough people there, the lodges will and the oases, I'm sure for sure. They will do rituals that day. Those will use Hadith, Nuit, and Horus, in the rituals. But besides that, to tell you the truth, unless somebody wanted to do one and you have to get approval, a lot of this stuff actually was normally kind of like related to Kabbalistic stuff. One time when I was there and I didn't go to it, they actually did some sort of goetic thing. I can't remember. There might have been like, I think it was a Samuel. Maybe I can't remember. But supposedly they invoked something into a triangle. I didn't go for
Oh,
that.
did you say Samael?
Yeah, it was
Samiel?
like some goetic spirit though. I can't remember.
Okay.
Ugh. Yeah, but I didn't go for that. But that was the one time that I was there for all that time. I saw that. But for the most part, like I would actually have to say, I don't remember like there was a few rituals that were done like outside of what they normally do, but it was nothing ever like specific
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like one time they did a ritual like they were showing us how to make wax, like when you make an envelopes or seals, how
Mm-hmm.
to make wax seals.
Sure.
You can use those in envelopes, or you can actually make sigils out of that. You can maybe design your own, whatever, and put it into a print or whatever, if you wanted to do that. And it was like one of our classes like that, and the girl who was teaching the class actually wanted to like turn it into a talisman. So she ended up doing like the banishing ritual for the elementals to clear out where you are. Then she eventually went into the lesser banishing ritual, the hexagram, and that banishes everything. It's like starting over with a clean slate. And then she invoked the sun. And that's kind of like reign over your own domain. It's it's a good. Honestly, it's a good thing. It's kind of like overall balanced, good thing for you. In a sense. So that's what she was putting into the talisman. But like
Which
I
she would probably
never.
wear that, right? Or carry it around or what?
Yeah, I think it was something I can't exactly. No, I think it was more or less like something to
Oh, do you just pull it out for?
burn or like use like
Oh,
on your,
okay.
you know.
Okay.
Yeah, or to even just use it literally as a mail stamp if you want.
Okay. Like to clear the energy of
Yeah.
whatever you're sending. That's interesting.
But
Very interesting.
yeah, like she did one of those rituals to like
Okay.
make a talisman out of it, and I thought that was rather interesting.
So, okay, what the pentagram? Of course, most people I think have a negative perspective of that because the way it's been portrayed in pop culture, it usually shows up in true crime cases. Anytime you see a movie, somebody's getting killed and they want to like show you that there's an occult element to the murder, they'll throw the pentagram in. I think that's what it kind of but what did it represent for you guys?
I guess like the four elements in the spirit, in a sense.
Mm.
Earth. It is also even used as a symbol for Earth, the pentacle on your altar. Uh, man. Me, I think might even have to do with like light reflection. Um, I even like the symbol of Lucifer is extremely close to how light reflects off of your eyeball. Like extremely, almost looks just like it. So you have to start wondering about shit like that. I do
Yeah.
think that's why I get into the eyes and the brain.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I mean, it depends. I mean, that's
That's no,
getting the
that's
pentagram
cool.
into like other things. Like, yeah, that can get
Well,
deep.
see, I'm learning a lot right now, and I think maybe we should probably tell people too that the OTO. I'm going to take a stab at it, and you correct me if I'm wrong. That was it Theodore Roos and Crowley who created that?
Theodore Roos, and I always forget the other guy's name. So sorry. I mean, the guy's
Oh,
dead. But no, well, for him, I always forget this other guy's name, and I'm sure he was just as important. He started doing it with somebody else, and Crowley, I don't know what exactly. Neither he said something or was writing something. He came across them that they're like, oh my god, this guy understands the secrets of our order. Supposedly they got in touch with him. He was like, oh, I had no idea. Supposedly, but then they eventually met and they handed the order over to him, and he knocked out a bunch of the initiations and like kind of put the book of the law as the holy book and changed the order. It wasn't, but they were originally like they were Masons who started an offshoot. But at the time, when it wasn't ran by Crowley, it did have like if a Mason came into it and it was at a certain degree, you didn't have to start at the bottom. So it was recognized.
Oh, they could jump. Yeah, they get a little head start. Now, does it come out of Germany
Yeah, most
originally?
people did. Yeah, yes.
Huh, that's interesting. Because we were just talking about that. All this stuff just totally.
You know what's weird? That their headquarters is in Swiss. Remember we were talking about Switzerland before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
like
weird shit is that even like this. Have you ever heard of the St. Gallen Mafia?
no, the Saint what?
Oh, St. Gallen Mafia. I
No,
covered
no.
a while ago. They are even like somehow tied to like the. They started over in Switzerland and they are like somehow even tied to like the OTO like order over there.
Are they like a traditional mafia, like a crime family, or?
Well, actually, yeah, I'll just explain it real quick. It was like a bunch of bishops, basically, like card
Wow.
that if you look at where we show in the thing is that between like two dudes, it was basically Freemasons that started because of their power, started putting people into position And you all of a sudden you realize, like, between two bishop and cardinals, they made all these other ones bishop and cardinals that were all picking certain leftist ideology and trying to push it at the same time. Like it was a choreographed effort to actually install a bunch
Hmm.
of occultists to fuck up the Catholic Church.
Wow.
I covered
Okay.
this. Pretty interesting, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
yeah,
coup.
yeah.
Like they were trying to like go in there and like change the Catholic doctrine or something.
Yeah, yeah. They were the ones who were pushing to get rid of the Latin mass.
Okay.
They're the ones that were saying that you
Did
could
they
be
want
married.
did they want a Gnostic mass in place of that?
No, they didn't want to do the Latin mass anymore. That
Wow,
is fun.
man.
But that was one of the connections that supposedly the OTO had used one of their churches to do the Gnostic Mass sometimes, and that the church now I don't know if this is true or not, because this is the whole thing. The OTO even has cakes of light, which is not the same thing as what they give you in church. But supposedly this church was even like giving them like the cakes of light to use. So now that I don't know if that's true, because that's not the same thing a Catholic church is going to use. They're going to have to make that themselves. And if they are, that to me is you've crossed the line and there's something wrong there if you're making cakes of light for the OTO. Something shady.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
It's like you're cooking menstrual blood into that.
there's a lot of, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
there's I mean, there's plenty of researchers out there who have done pretty good diligent work, and what they've kind of proposed is that there is a little sect of occultists in the Vatican.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's not a little sect either, but there
I
is
think
at
the
least a
Catholic
sect.
Church, again, like I was saying, even in the 1700s, I mean, they were basically occultists and open about it. Not all of them were bad, but they were looking at Catholicism in a completely occult way.
Well, so what about this then? When you join the OTO and you start doing these rituals, like you're doing the hex, you're doing the pentagram, and then you're,
Start
going,
working.
are you suited up? Are you doing it in a Catholic kind of a way? Do you feel like you're at a
That's
Catholic
really
church?
interesting. All right, at my house, when I used to do this stuff, I remember even my wife at the time, she had even said something about it looks like a Catholic church in here.
Yeah.
Because the way I did it, I was very much like the stuff I used just looked like Catholic church. Like, all right, I had the incense burner that I had. I used one of those ones that
Does it
uses the
swing?
yeah. I had one of those ones that swings, and I would pull
Yeah.
by the chain. I even had the thing that you would use when they used to do the water. It was like a thing with a bulb at the end that you dump it in the water, and it has like a big cotton ball in there, and it kind of just like lets it come out at the end. I used that to cleanse my circle.
Oh, you
I had,
used a
I had a
Catholic thing for that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, shit you not. 2 blocks down away from me when I lived in Queens was this beautiful Catholic church. And they had this big like, coffee urn thing in there that they used to fill up with holy water and then fill up these things as you're walking in so you could dip your fingers in them, whatever. I would go in there with a bottle and just I'd fill up a jug and bring it home. I would use that holy water. It's like, one time I didn't even realize I walked a Salem hoodie with a pentagram on the back, filling up a fucking bottle of holy water in a church.
I
Like if
just got
somebody saw
this.
that, they'd be like, "What the is going on here?"
I just got this mental picture of you going filling up your water bottle with holy water and then going back and doing a ritual at home with
Yeah,
it. That's
it's like fuck
crazy.
no. Fuck. Yeah, but
Oh,
like even the whole idea behind, I mean, there's magicians who make their own holy water because they do think like there's something to that.
sure, sure. And
There's a
even
lot of stuff
like,
with Catholicism that people would be surprised is like taken into consideration with magicians.
yeah, I mean,
They believe Moses was a magician. A lot of they'll if they're not ignorant and don't deny the Bible of having worth, a lot of those magicians will even say Jesus was a gangster magician. They all acknowledge them as being like OGs.
hmm hmm I mean, I'm not Catholic and I didn't grow up Catholic, but I've got a lot of family in Pittsburgh and they're in a very Catholic centric neighborhood out there. And like all three of my cousins, when they got married, they had Catholic weddings. So I went
Wow.
to those. And I'll tell you something right now, man. A Catholic wedding, at least the ones I went to, was
It's awesome.
about 90% Catholic church, 10% wedding. It was just like, so when I started learning more about magic and the occult, and I'm reading about certain rituals and stuff like that, while I'm reading it, I'm thinking back to my time at these Catholic weddings, and I'm like, That what I'm reading here sounds a lot like what I saw them doing in the Catholic Church, just in a different way, just like a remix.
No, I will. I mean, I'll tell you right now. Even people that I knew. Now, this is again. I'm not saying it's something I got into with the Goetia. People who I knew with that were actually very like deep into like Catholicism, occult, and like very much even like the regalia,
Mhm.
like very like Catholic or like it's kind of interesting.
Oh, and we're talking about Hebrew too earlier, and like in the Old Testament, when they're at their temple, when they set up the temple out in the desert or whatever, and their priests are using those swinging incense things all the way back in the Old Testament. So I'm wondering if like that came from a Hebrew tradition
Yeah.
originally. I mean, who knows? But
I do even find it interesting. Like I guarantee you, there's a reason why you even use those. I guarantee you, it symbolizes something.
yeah. Oh,
I
it
even
all.
do think with these rituals, and I'm going to throw this out there with at least with I mean, the pentagram ritual and the hexagram ritual kind of, you're doing the same thing in a sense, but this is going to sound weird, but is when it comes down to adapting shit to physiology, I actually think these rituals do show you the difference that goes on inside your eyeball when you have a magical experience. Because your eyeball, when it goes to open up, it pulls open at four corners. When it goes small, it actually spirals closed, screws closed. And you're going to the four corners, basically
Yeah.
destroying whatever's there and taking control of it and spiraling around in your black robe at the same time. It's very much like your pupil screwing closed and destroying the muscles that pulled it open.
Have you ever seen a
And then think
unwound?
about it, then you pull the light, and then I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very much.
Have you ever seen an unwound or unraveled heart? Because a heart is folded. It's a fold. It looks like
Oh,
if you were to take a scarf, or like, okay, even better, like a big long strip of flank steak that's real thin,
okay.
and if you wrap it up over a piece of bacon or something, if you pull it out, that's what a heart looks like.
Okay, well,
But when it's unraveled, bro, it's like
too bad.
it looks like a DNA strand.
Oh shit. Okay, I gotta check that out.
And it looks like if I'll try to send a picture. I saw a picture of it. I'll try to send it to you after we're done. But like, it looks like some other symbol as well.
That is
So the heart is not this chunk of meat that we symbolize as, like a heart emoji or whatever. It looks like a piece of a spiral of steak or something. It's crazy, man. But I don't know. It reminded me. So with the eye thing, though, back to that. So you're saying earlier, the symbol for Lucifer looks like the symbol of light hitting the eye, right? And
I mean, even the unicrystal hexagram. I don't know if you can see it. That's very close
yeah,
to something. That's
what's that
very
called again?
unicrystal hexagram.
Okay, yeah,
Crowley ended up taking it over, but he didn't make it.
yeah, I've
No,
seen it,
he was a master of taking other people's shit.
but it's got
Essentially.
an eye in the center, right?
Yeah, that I put it there. I had to put that in myself,
Okay.
but that's very close to how light reflects off of your eye as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so
It also changes depending on how dilated it is to an extent.
yeah, like fluctuates.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're onto something. You're onto something. What is this? How does this fit into your? Do you want to talk about this cross? I want to talk about this crossing the abyss
Okay.
thing because I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Maybe that's not going to happen today, but
No, no, we can. We
I'm
can. Oh,
curious
well, maybe
about
you won't
it.
figure it out what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
I
Yeah,
haven't yet. Totally,
yeah,
but I have a
that's what
few
I mean.
ideas. But
Well, because it seems like maybe the eye and what's happening with the eye is maybe affecting that somehow, right?
what I do think in the long run is like people, if anybody's ever been an EMT or a paramedic, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. People they say the light goes out in your eyes when you die. I do think in a sense like you're actually riding that light out of your body in a sense.
Mm.
Yeah, but one thing I do before I even get into this, one thing I do want to preface when this happened, there was no drugs involved. I didn't start smoking weed again until like COVID got crazy because I was like, if I got to go out into public and deal with this madness, I got to start smoking weed again. I can't deal with this.
I
Like,
hear it.
So I started kind of like picking up smoking weed again, but none of this had drugs involved. And believe it or not, the ones I'm going to talk about now, where I do actually think it was a magical experience, I never even did a ritual. It was all done under meditation. So what I'm saying is that drugs and rituals I do not think are necessary. It's not my experience. Just want to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it normally came from meditating. Just to get myself down, just to it. Normally, when I would go to meditate, I would sit in a chair with a straight back, so my back is straight, and I would put my hands on my lap, straight on my legs. It's called the God pose. It's one of the poses that is suggested to do in the OTO. I think in Liber E, there's suggested breathing techniques and poses to do during meditation. Liber O would be one of their books that they do suggest that has the hexagram and pentagram ritual in there. If anybody's not pushing it, but I'm just saying those are texts that they would suggest. So I was using the God form, and I was, I will normally sit there, I'll breathe, in and out for a while, I'll get myself, relaxed. Then I'll start to kind of just visualize kind of energy going through my body up and down. It's just a thing that I've done since day one when I started getting into meditating, because it was a suggested thing. It's to try to visualize and feel the energy flow up and down. I would do that, and then eventually I would start chakras, and then eventually I would start for me. I know if there's other people out there that do mess with chakras, they do say you can feel it feels like spinning balls or something of wind or little tornadoes. I would start eventually focusing on that and practicing. I think techniques and certain chakra books. I got big into that for meditation. A lot of things I incorporated into meditation just to keep me meditating, because it is hard for me. Originally it's who wants to sit there and try to think of nothing for 15 minutes? It's boring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Until I realized, and that's one thing I do want to mention too. There would be times where I go to meditate on tarot cards. It's not so much shutting everything off. It's just maybe only have 5 voices, or if you're really good, focus on one idea, like this tarot card, and try to get, what might pop into my head that I'm thinking about. You know what I'm saying? It's not shutting it all off, at least not from my experience. It's crazy. So I would start going into chakra work, and then it just happened that at one point I just started I would focus on my pineal gland, because I had noticed that sometimes when I was in a deep meditation, if I was doing my chakras, if I was to focus and really push on my pineal gland a lot, almost visually it would start getting darker. And I always started thinking something's weird with that. Or is there something that I'm doing I don't know, with my eyes or in my head, that when I'm pushing there, maybe it's not my pineal gland, it's something else. What's making that visual change within my eyes when my eyes are closed? Because it was it was definitely a difference in blackness. And I was all right, we're going to play with this again. And I started pushing on it hard, and I'm meditating. I could have been meditating for 20, 30 minutes at this point, already playing around with stuff. And again, this has been years that I've just been doing this stuff. And I started pushing on it really hard, and it got really black, to where it's really weird. I'll take it. This is where it really starts to begin now. That when the black starts to come in, it almost looks as if let's say I was looking down at a black table, and I went and went blew on it, and there was dust on the table, but I didn't even notice because it's so black. And when it blows away, you're oh my God, that's really black. It's even darker because there's no tint to it. It's so black. Or if you're looking at asphalt and oil started coming out of it, and that was even darker than the asphalt. I don't know, but it looked like something spilling out almost in my vision, really fucking black. And it would have these razor lines around it that almost looked like fluorescent, rainbow kind of bright colors. And it just starts to totally take up my vision. And then eventually it's really black. And then it'll almost start to look like a flag, almost like water, And this is something I just want to say that I've even wondered about. If light was to shine on a black floor, could you make it look like a wave, depending on how the light's shining on it, even though it's not waving? So I'm even wondering if there was just light already, something going on with the light and my perception, even with that. That's a little deep, but I have thought about that. But it does look like it almost starts to be like a wave, and then all of a sudden it'll just stop. It's and then you'll start to see this little dark, not dark, bright as hell pin dot. It looks like a star, all the way out in the distance. It even almost looked like there's like, I know this thing sound crazy, like black clouds around it, because like as like you see the white pin dot, there's almost like a glow coming from it, and you can see like these. It almost looks like cloud puffs, but it's like drawn into the blackness, and it's like you see kind of like that line or that shape. So hard to explain. It's almost like do you ever remember the viewfinders back in the day when we were kids, and you play that, you push the thing on the side of
Yes.
it, and it's almost like different layers of stuff to make it look 3D in a sense.
Yeah.
Starts to look very much like that, even with the like the layers of the clouds and then like the star.
Hmm.
And as crazy as it is, your eyes are closed and you could swear there's depth. It's weird. You almost like can feel it. It's very weird. And it starts to get closer, and it will start like then you'll start seeing like almost black come out and start like kind of swirling in the middle and like turn into like a black sphere. And then eventually it's like you see this big, basically what you're getting now is an eclipse. It went from a star to like it turns into an eclipse. And I think he's sitting there. And then remember like those lines I said before, those bright fluorescent lines. Oh no, I'm sorry, this happens first. I see it and it stays there, and I see like the eclipse. And now this whole time I'm pressing on my pineal gland, still holding it. Looks like explosions almost start going out like around it. And again, it's like pops of color. And then if you remember like what I was saying, that almost looks like drawings of clouds. That's there again, but because of the colors exploding and those outlines, it looks like an explosion to me. Or flowers blooming, which is why on my logo.
Your logo.
But yeah, yes, my
Yeah.
man. Thank you.
It looks like an eclipse with flowers.
yes, flowers blooming around it.
That's cool.
Yes, I'm trying to visualize my vision. Yeah, I'm trying to. So that starts to happen, and it starts to look like roses blooming.
Yeah.
And that will go away. And out of like the four cardinal directions, those bright, thin lines will start to spin almost like spiraling like a camera case or a camera lens. You know how that, just like your pupil, basically, how it spirals. You will see that coming out, like spiraling out of it. It was like all these spirals coming out of the clips, and like it almost even feels like it's like
Yeah.
it start like almost feeling like stuff within your body.
Wow.
And we'll get into that when you really start to feel that start to change, because there's a whole physical feeling that I have never ever ever felt unless I felt magic. I've never felt it again before or after, so it's very distinct to me. So yeah, so I see that, and that starts spiraling out, and then all of a sudden you start getting like these geometric like shapes, or we were saying it before, like geometry,
Sacred geometry.
sacred geometry. Yeah, like all these, and it's like spiraling and like
Yeah.
flying past you, coming out of like the side of the eclipse. And then right around the time that starts to stop, I don't know if you've ever seen like the logo I might use on my Twitter or my YouTube, where it's that eclipse and then the movie reels coming out of it.
Mhm.
I had Mario from Symbolic Studies make that for me. Amazing piece of work. It's another vision of mine. When that starts to happen, what will happen is that those shapes will go away, and then for me, the easiest way I try to explain it, it looks a lot like if movie reels were running past you real slow, or if like you were standing in the middle of a subway and two cars are coming down going the same direction but really slow, and like you could see inside the car windows, and so you just start seeing, and they look like they're like cellophane with a sepia look to them. It's like literally like I've actually wondered, and I'm not trying to say, oh, I understand John Lennon, but him and even Lana Del Rey have talked about cellophane skies.
Oh.
And to me, when I saw that, I was like, after the fact, when I'm trying to remember, like, like thinking like even how weird that vision looked, I'm like, oh, that kind of looked like I was looking through like, I smoke cellophane, like a sepia cellophane tinged window. And then like that clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, that guy said that in whatever, but cellophane skies.
Yeah.
But I start seeing that coming down. And again, like movie reels would be a good way, but it doesn't have like those things on the top that the movie reels actually sticking into those little holes. It's just these windows that start going really slow and coming down the side. Normally, except for one time, I normally like you see him, but like you kind of see there's something in there, but I was more still focused on the fucking eclipse. And it's just like, okay, these windows are coming by. Around that time, I will start feel like a fluttering like in my body. And from like I'll start to feel like at the bottom of my toes, going like all the way up. Like it will almost start to feel like it's like, it sounds crazy, like disappear. You ever see Tron when they went into Tron and it just starts like
Yeah.
erasing?
Oh
It was
yeah.
literally as if like from the bottom up was like the wind just came by and I was sand and it was like gone. And like by the time I get up to my knees, everything below that's gone. And it just like literally starts to feel like I'm just disappearing, or maybe my nerves or the electricity running through my body isn't there anymore, so I'm not feeling it, which is what I think more of it. I think like you're starting to like go up
Or
into
your
your body.
spirit. It's like your spirit
Yeah.
is not attached to your legs
So I
anymore. It's
don't think you'll
all.
feel it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do think so. Which is probably why some people will still feel limbs when they're gone, because maybe the spirit, in a sense, is still coming out of there. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you hear what you're saying. So eventually it will start to come up like into closer to my body, and everything below again is gone, and it starts to like build up into my head. And then at one point, it's like all of a sudden it feels like if you were like laying on the beach, and I was laying out there, and the wave crashed, and it was like running up the sand, and the water, like somehow the bottom of my soles were like hollow, and the water could just run through my body, like and go through my legs and my whole body. Literally was like felt like water. And then all of a sudden it goes up in the top of my head, and it was like, poof, and it like comes. I know it sounds crazy, right where the yarmulke goes too. It feels like I'm blasting out the top of the back of my head, and that's like, all right, Alps. So those things start to go away. Those windows, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you just have the eclipse is just there, like just by itself, and then all of a sudden the black sphere starts to rise up from the white one. It almost looks like Toth's headdress, where it looks like a crescent moon in the sun. But I see that when it separates. It actually,
Yeah.
just to be honest, it looks a lot like that. And as soon as it separates, now again, I'm pressing on my pineal again, pushing on it real far this whole time. As soon as that separates, it literally feels like something snapped and something, bam, smacks me right back. It like literally feels like some sort of polarity change. And me pushing meant me getting popped in the head now.
Hmm.
And then that's when all of a sudden everything feels like it starts coming out of my body. And it's like literally like my head explodes. And it literally feels like that my body bursts into like a million butterflies. It's like fluttering, just like going out. And it starts to feel like almost like 2001, where it starts to look like that weird, like linear. It almost feels like you start getting pulled out like all over the
Okay.
place, and you're getting
Yeah.
stretched out, and you start like going, like you start to literally almost start. And it sounds crazy, and I hate to admit it, but this is why I do think NASA is literally just an occult thing. A lot of the visions that that I've had after this does look like you just be floating in, you think is space, but you're a part of it. You're not in it. You're literally like a part of the fabric and just like flowing along with it.
Hmm.
And you get a lot of that. I have like,
Wow, man.
but it like literally feels like stretched into like the fabric of whatever you're envisioning or whatever you're a part of. And when that happens, it's like literally you feel like something melts off of you. There's not one thought of like hate, anger, fear. The only thing I can equivalent it to is if you were to take the idea of love. I mean, for real, a million times stronger than any feeling you think is love. It is like all of a sudden the most intense feeling of ultimate love, and it's just like you're just there witnessing and being in existence and not questioning anything, and in love. You're not thinking a thing. You just feel it. And as soon as I start thinking about where I am or who am I, it's
You're
over.
out of it.
Done.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Almost like
Because what I think at that point, however people want to take it, I do think you're connecting to the all. And once you start to think about yourself, you're no longer that anymore.
that's what I was
You
about to
separate
say.
yourself from the source by even thinking of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like you've briefly attached yourself to the universe. And that's the feeling of like it's like almost like a drug, but it seems like it's like a better feeling than you would get from drugs, almost like it's more, yeah, pure or wholesome or whatever,
And I
clear.
do think people abuse it though too.
Sure, I could see that because it sounds like it feels great.
I thought it was addictive, which is
And
why I kind of stopped because like my last real experience was like before I put myself into the hospital, and I was like, oh, I'm like I did it 3 times in a week. I was like, oh, this is great.
is that when your eyes got all your
Oh
pupils
yeah,
were?
well they had already started getting like that anyway, but that like again like the shit lasted like literally probably a month and a half to go back to normal.
Okay.
Yeah, like even when I left the hospital, I didn't see the eye doctor until 2 or 3 weeks later, and there was still a difference. It was originally 4 millimeters difference. At that point, it was only 2 millimeter difference. But she even was like, I could see the difference. You know, it was
Mm-hmm.
crazy too. Swear to God, I even had said to the lady because I was weirded out, and I was just like, yo, I was like, is there any way you can actually like? For some reason I had this idea there was something up with your eyes again. I don't know why. Like that was another thing. Like I will even say every time I do this is gonna sound silly, some Matrix shit, but it's not like really knowing kung fu. But when you open up your eyes, you're gonna know things you didn't, and unfortunately, you may know things you didn't want to, which is another harsh reality you may have to deal with if you find this. You have to even think of if you have that whole experience and it's real to you. How do you even explain what you've believed your whole life if that you just had that experience?
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Everything's been a fight if that's real.
mushrooms. Like when I took mushrooms when I was for the first time I ever when I was in my early 20s, I took mushrooms for the first time and I had a wild experience. And at the end of it, not to equate your experience to
Yeah.
that, but like the feeling I got afterwards was like that. It was like I saw the world differently.
Oh,
I had a more mature sort of a more open mind to concepts. Somehow I had lost a lot of the dogma that I had picked up along the way in life at that point. I'm not telling people to go take mushrooms. It's and don't because you're not going to have there's no guarantee that you're going to have my experience happen to you. That drug does different things to different people. But it was a very powerful thing for me because as when the mushrooms kicked in, I was sitting in my buddy's truck and I was just we were waiting for him to kick in and I I was sitting there and I could see myself in the rear view mirror, the passenger side rear. So I was just sitting there almost like waiting for these mushrooms to kick in, sitting there just kind of staring at myself in the mirror for some reason. And all of a sudden my face turned into 20 plus different people, like
mm.
and I said, "Oh," I sat back, I said, "Oh," and he goes, "They kicked in." I'm like, "Yeah." Then I looked over because I had the window down. We were just parked in the field. I looked over at the tree line and I saw the green man that they talk about. The spirit of the West. I saw three or four green men. The trees became three faces of lizards, and it looks just like
that's
the
gangster.
Green Man from Appalachia. And then anyway, but okay, so it was like so I'd say all that to say like it was a
That's
very
that's what's
very uh engaging trip that I had. And when I came out of it though, I crashed. I had a paranoia at the very end of it. Like it was a wild trip. And when I came out of it, I had this feeling like I can't go back to who I was before.
oh
I'm
yeah.
still me, but it's me. It's a different me.
Yeah, you won't look at the world the same anymore. Yeah, that
Yeah.
will change you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot where I was going somewhere with all that. I think it might
I'm
have been
sorry. I mean,
but I think it was literally this. What I was getting at is that, it will change you, yeah.
well, and I was thinking too, like the sun, the eclipse part of this for you. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like I there's a scene in a Soundgarden video where they show something that looks a lot like your logo, actually.
Yeah, the
It's
black hole suns, yeah.
yeah, black hole sun.
You know what's
And
crazy is that shit that they're showing on their faces is an actual brain issue that a small percentage of people have, where everybody's face looks like that.
people's
Imagine you
faces
had that.
morph.
Yeah, imagine you were somebody that had to deal with that. You actually see
Yeah.
faces like that.
Yeah,
Some
that's
people do.
crazy.
I forgot
I
the
know.
specific name, but there is actually an issue with that.
My friend told me that if he looks at people for too long or more than a couple seconds, they start turning into cartoon characters looking like that kind of a stuff. Like their mouths get a little bigger and their eyes get bigger. He has whatever that is. It's gotta suck, man. It's gotta suck. But like Black Hole Sun, yeah, man, like the sky in that video kind of reminded me of your story. And you know what's crazy is like the first line in that song, I think, is "In my eyes." He's like, in my eyes,
Oh shit.
indisposed.
Oh
He
wow.
says in my eyes and he says indisposed like reticent or reluctant or something like that is what he's trying to convey, I think. But that's
Yeah,
interesting.
look into that more. I never noticed that. Damn. Because I have looked at the lyrics of the song after my experience. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I think that's one of those songs that he said, Cornell, when he's still alive, he said, like, everybody asked him, what is this song about? You know, like everybody wanted to know, what's this about? You know, is it about the eclipse or eclipse and all this stuff? But he was saying in an interview that that song was, he said he was playing with words for words' sake, almost like a form of divination. Like okay, so like think about it like this, like let's say you're walking around your house and you're trying to write a song, and in one room you have a TV on. Then the next room you have a magazine open on the bed. Next room you have a TV on, another TV on, and then on the fourth room you have like a bookshelf, and you're just walking around. In the first room, whatever they say on TV, you use a line from that. Second room, you just go and you flip through the magazine, and whatever your eye catches, you use that as your second line. Back in the third room, or go into the third room, whatever they happen to say on TV in that TV, you use that for your third line. And then when you get to your bookshelf in the fourth room, you just pull a book out, open it up, and whatever your catches your eye, that's your now you've got a full verse of music, right? And like that's what I think he was saying. Like I don't think he did that.
Bowie used to he admits that sometimes he would take, and he was an occultist, he would take old journal entries and cut up words and lines and stuff and then mix
Yeah,
it up.
that William S. Burroughs would do that because Burroughs was doing that with his like
Dream, right? Or something, maybe.
it was like a collage art or something he was doing, but Burroughs, like Bowie, it sounds like, was using it for divination because what they were trying to do was they were trying to let a message come through. Like you're doing random chaotic stuff,
Yeah,
but
it's
but
almost like
a message comes through. So if you write a song like that, the song writes itself.
yeah.
So I always thought about that with like Chris Cornell and Black Hole Sun. I'm like, when he says he's playing words for words' sake, you know, Rick Rubin had guys do that. Rick Rubin had System of a Down do that in one of their songs. It's one of their biggest songs. They were they were taking books off the shelf and just opening them, and whatever caught their eye, they were making that the lyric of the song. But when you listen to the song, it sounds like they had a topic that they wanted to write about, but the topic they had nothing to do with the topic. The topic came to them. Anyways,
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
and
The shit
like,
is interesting.
but
It's just,
back to
it
your,
even reminds me of chaos magic in a sense. That's why.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sorry, man. Like your stories,
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't mean
no,
to get
no,
us
no,
too
no,
off from
no,
your
no, no,
story,
no. Don't worry, don't worry. You're good.
but because in a weird way, you're connecting. It's almost like you're connecting with something, and it's it's out of your hands at that point. It's like that thing is coming to you and giving you the vision or whatever. Maybe I don't know. It's you're not like in charge. It seems like it's just happening.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
what do you think about that?
yeah. Like again, like I said, if you think too much, it ends. I mean,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. No, that is true, though. I guess I'm not really in charge. Huh.
Because the minute you try to start controlling it or try like if you're in that moment and you're like, oh, I want to do this for 5 more minutes, I want to continue this, that would be like you stepping in and saying, oh, I want to kind of control this, and then that's when you lose the signal, right?
Yeah, I do question too, though. Like the longer you don't question anything, and the farther you will actually go back as well.
Mm. Well, and they say that about remote viewing too. Because I mean, I went pretty deep into that, man, looking into it. And some of the remote viewers said the more you practice remote viewing, the less potent your results become. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. And that's what Jacques Vallée was saying too, was like whenever he did his first remote viewing session and he found himself sitting on top of a mountain, they pulled him out of it They pulled him out of the session, and he immediately wanted to do it again. He's like, I want to try another. I want to try to do this. I want to review something else now. And they said no. Like, you're done for the day. You're done for a while. Or like, we want you to revel in this moment, in this feeling. We don't want you to keep doing it over and over again. It's almost like it loses its potency or something. I don't know. Would you say that you went into, well, would you say, so I'm while you're telling me that story, I'm thinking about that movie Gladiator, and like there's a scene, they've got that quote in that movie. It's like, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And then they keep showing this scene throughout that movie where he's going somewhere else. He's going into like almost like another neighboring dimension or something. It's
Yeah,
like a dream, like
yeah.
and it's almost like that sepia. It's not sepia, but it's almost like it's a different coloration to everything. And he's like walking through a wheat field, or he's on a beach and the sky looks different. And he's in some dream-like astral place or something.
Well, I will
That's
say, like around the eclipse is very much chrome, almost like black and white, chromatic.
Mhm.
Oh no, I'm probably using the wrong word, but whatever. It's very much just like black and white, almost like old film. And then those windows is what brings in like sepia. It's almost like a brown tinge.
Yeah.
It's interesting because again, like you're getting this, people will sometimes equivalent Saturn to like the black hole sun or the black sun. And brown is a color kabbalistically in the Hermetic Kabbalah, which didn't make sense to me until like kind of now until that. I do wonder if that somewhat is an image of Saturn. An idea of Saturn is in there. That's maybe where the brown sepia look is coming from. That it goes along with it. But
If you,
yeah, I do get that, the brown and then the sepia. It's like
yeah.
two different things.
If you wanted to today, after this podcast was open, do you feel like you could go sit down, meditate, and reconnect?
Uh, right now. Maybe if I was lucky, I'd be totally honest with you. It might be something like right now, honestly, just because of like where my life is. Because as crazy as it sounds, me being so attached to even the work that I'm doing on podcasts, that's attachments to like reality. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I would have to probably like really like maybe spend like a few days or a week or so maybe to try to like really be able to pull it off. But
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is I do think I can if I wanted to for sure.
Hmm.
There is times I've even said this, and it's the weirdest. Around winter time, for me, I could close my eyes laying on the couch for a second and I'll see that fill up. Before winter, around the winter solstice, I'm being totally honest with you, it is much easier to blast off. No idea why. I don't know if it has to do with the polarity again, because I do think there is something up with even switching polarity with yourself.
You
I
ever
actually,
talk?
I think when a person creates a magical experience, it sounds crazy. I think they're their own black hole. I even think that's part of like what you're seeing.
Hmm. Like there's a universe within
Yeah,
everyone.
but it's like that's when it's like it eats itself up. You know how they say it explodes and then
Yeah.
I think you're experiencing one of those right now.
What if this is what Aquino was doing over in in the endless, and
I,
not to be like, I don't know. I'm not trying to joke about your
yeah.
experience, but I think that
No, no, no. Go ahead.
he was trying to, it seems like he was trying to mess around with like an inner black sun or something like that. I could be off with that, but that's what seemed to be, that's what that symbol I think represents to some people.
I've even said like when the thing starts to originally start to spin, it will for a minute. It does look like the swastika in a sense. It's just not as angular. It's more of a
Yeah.
curve. It starts to spin. It's not so.
Hmm. Those are because those lines on the black sun, those are very rigid lines. They're spiraling, but they're rigid, so they look like the corners of a swastika. Yeah,
But yeah,
man.
I've even wondered. I've wondered if like what they're trying to do with like CERN and things like that, if they're actually trying to like recreate like what a magical experience would be in one person, but like multiply it by like billions.
Hmm. I've thought about that as well.
Yeah.
They had one of the things that happened right after they turned on the particle collider a couple of years back was they had a huge, speaking of spirals, they had a big spiral thing open up in the sky. People were taking pictures of it. Looked like a vortex or something. Just a spiral in the sky, and it even looked like a spiral. Like if you were to say make me a spiral emoji. So just make a symbol that depicts a spiral, right? There's something that looked just like that, like a stereotypical spiral that showed up in the sky over there. There's pictures of it out. I'm trying to remember what they called it, but anyway, that popped up in the sky right after they turned on CERN one of those times. So it's like, what's it doing in that regard too to the atmosphere, or what's it doing to like the collective consciousness as
I
well?
do actually wonder too if people like have certain like I do wonder if UFO sightings or what people think might be UFO sightings is side effects of magical experiences as well.
Mhm. I think our mind is just like the power that we have that we just don't know. It's just a lot of untapped power that we have.
I mean, our bodies run on electricity. I don't even think most people even realize that.
Yeah,
That we
yeah,
get from the sun. The sun. That's another thing with even where I think occultism gets into this. It does get into like, we receive light from the sun, which does all have like technically a code in there too. If you want to listen to what scientists say, and it goes into your eyeballs, and eventually, when it makes it to the back, your optic nerve, which this is what I actually think they were showing you in Minerval. I'm just going to throw that out there for people listening. I was even standing next to a tent that they don't even acknowledge the whole time you're in there. That looks like an optic nerve. It is one of your 12 cranial nerves, which is, I think, why they pump your thumb 12 times. And they tell you the name is on. I think they're actually showing you the back part of your eye, your optic nerve, where it takes sunlight and turns it into electricity. And that goes back into your brain. And that powers your whole body.
I can totally see that, man. Something like that's happening when you ground. Like in the summertime, I'm blessed. I've got a backyard that's kind of private. So in the summertime, I'll go out there in the backyard and like sometimes I'll sit out in the sun and just put my, barefoot in the grass. And the more sun I get, the more charged up I am for the rest of the day. Like it's electric. There's something happening with electricity
Yeah.
from that. I'm gleaning it from the sun though, for sure. Like I'm buzzing on a higher vibration, Nick, after I sit out in the sun.
Oh, it's great for you. All right, this is even another thing, and I didn't mention this, and I was going to bring it up and forgot. And Liber Resh, that's a book by Crowley. It's for the Resh. And that's like a prayer that you do 4 times a day, and you face the sun. You're supposed to actually go outside and do like whatever thing it is and face the sun. I actually think if you were to stare at the sun at those different times of the day, you would actually prime your pineal gland to be like optimal.
Mm-hmm.
Even in one of Crowley's rituals, he does when you do the ISIS. At one point, you're acting like you're ISIS holding a baby, and you will. This is Crowley's rituals where you start doing specific like poses. You'll grab your nipple. Believe it or not, when a woman has a child, and that child goes to put its mouth on that nipple, that child will actually share a relationship with the mother's pineal gland. The pineal gland will tell her through the Filk. It will start telling you when the seasons are, where it is in longitude and latitude in this world, how you're going to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, there's actually, but do you want to hear something? The stem cells is even being, you're transferred with the baby, a baby inside the body. To like, if you start looking at certain shit, you're like, this is so fuck old if you start looking at it other ways.
Yeah, yeah.
But believe it or
yeah.
not, because I was born first, my brother has my stem cells in his body because my mom had it with me because I gave her some of mine. Because it's a symbiotic relationship. Don't die because I want to live.
Crazy, man.
It's actually very like parasitic relationship.
Yes, yeah. I mean, no, there's just the occult scaffolding behind everything.
Yeah, but like there is I do think I do think it goes back to a lot of physiology and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Man,
you
that's
will
wild.
feel like certain things inside your eyeballs start to reflect into your brain and down into the rest of your body. Even parts of your brain, you'll see almost the exact same thing flipped upside down, like for the fallopian tubes. It's like as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
It's like flipped, you know? It's weird. And you start to almost see like occult symbols, especially if you start looking at the brain, certain parts of the brain. You start seeing things. H.R. Geiger, who did the stuff for aliens, he was into thalamic stuff, and he was very big into the eyes and the brain. And some of his alien things are supposedly based off of parts of your brain. That's why there's different stages because it's different parts of the brain.
Yeah. Now with Geiger, do you think that he was meditating and maybe coming seeing some of that stuff?
Oh, I think he was a real deal.
Yeah.
I think he definitely had magical experiences. I think he understood there was like a change going on. I mean, if you really think about it, your brain and your eyes are what determines your whole reality in a sense, anyway. If you're an occultist, you eventually, I would hope you'd start studying that.
Yeah, natural. That's a natural. There's a natural connection there.
And really, I mean,
Physiology,
people
like you
probably don't
said.
even realize that your eyes are just an extension of your brain. It's all connected.
I had a guy on recently. He told me to check out this guy named Joe Roop. So I went and listened to him on a podcast.
I have heard that name.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The show that I listened to, he was talking about how he meditates and he goes places. Like I think he called it the astral realm, but it seems like he's able to do it on a daily basis. Like he'll meditate.
Oh,
He's
I
got
think.
into a practice of doing it. And he calls where he goes is the astral realm, but he's having these almost sometimes he'll have these out of body experiences where he'll like be up above his house and he'll see himself meditating and he'll see like his kid in the other room playing with the toy and stuff. Um, or he'll see the kid doing something, and when he comes out of his meditation, he'll go in and look in the other room, and the kid will be doing what he saw the kid doing above the house where he was out of his body, kind of stuff.
I do believe
So
that's
yeah, he's so that's I don't know, man. I wonder how
people have
much.
had NDEs and they see that happen.
Mhm.
People get surgeries and they see themselves getting worked on.
Yeah. Like
That's even another thing. Think what anesthesia is doing to you. Like kind of like putting you halfway out there and halfway here.
Oh yeah, people have those near death experiences. I think we talked about this early on in the show today. Like the near death experience, a lot of times those people they see them, they're looking down at themselves on the table or in the back of an ambulance or whatever.
Yep. It was one story I listened to. The guy was on the side of the road. I think he had like whatever car accident or something. It's like seeing his body there. Like was like looking down and seeing the whole scene.
And I've heard stories from guys who saw combat action and they when they were in like a high stress scenario, some of those guys talked about having an out of body experience in combat.
I think, my opinion, and I think this is why they understand like parts of MK Ultra. I think they understand this. It's just my opinion. I think if you put enough stress on the body, the soul will try to just escape anyway. I think it'll say, "Out, I'm checking out. This is too much.
Yeah.
I ain't down for this."
Yeah.
I think they understand that. And that's how they start fracturing your mind, and that's why they do like sick shit to people because it's just putting them to the brink of separating themselves to not experience the situation anymore.
Yeah, like some Sidney Gottlieb stuff.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's even some people that the DID people that I've looked at. I think we even covered a long time, like originally in the Occult Rejects. Sometimes you'll even see in their art, they're always depicting like a shadow version of themselves. It's like is that like your soul separating as you're getting traumatized?
The MK Ultra rabbit holes, it goes deep, man. But yeah, you're right. It seems like people in the government have figured out how to manipulate this.
Yeah, I think so.
I do too. I do too, man. I mean, I had Ryder Leon and
Oh,
he
nice,
was
great dude. I like.
yeah, I know, man.
I like that.
Yeah, shout out to Ryder. Good podcast too. His podcast
Uh-huh.
is awesome. But no, he was, I was talking to him because I watched the video he did or the documentary he did recently with Jay Widener, the Clockwork Shining documentary. And they show a scene in there where Britney Spears is in an interview with Diane Sawyer, maybe one of these big name reporters. And she says something to Britney Spears and it's obviously it's a trigger word. And as soon as she says the word, everything changes. She steps into another personality. It's so clear, and it's like a childlike personality that she steps into. And it's very weird because it's like, how did Diane Sawyer? Because the word she used was not a word you would just normally throw in a conversation, right? She said it's almost like she said the word on purpose to get Brittany to turn into somebody else.
That is creepy.
It's so creepy. But it's like, first of all, it's like, how did she? Who clued her in to that? It's like, who? Like,
Like
how did
was
she
the
find out the
programmer telling you?
operating word to use on Britney Spears? And why is Britney Spears being mind controlled in the first place?
Yeah.
Fractured. I think we're going to just, I think that we're going to just continue to figure out stuff when it comes to MK Ultra. I think it's like way more widespread than we realize because they've
You know, like
had,
what if you're like some affluent family that's into this shit and you want to push it onto your kids and make them experience it. Just to say it's
yeah,
like fuck them up in the long run. We
that's
got the wrong people doing it.
and man, I mean, how deep is it with the music industry too? And like
Imagine
this
having that
is,
on you and not even having a chance or a choice. I mean, a choice at it.
I know, man. It's like that's crazy. But we can start to wrap it up with this. But like the occult, since you were in officially in the OTO for 6 years, and like you're well studied on this stuff and you're well versed, and I appreciate you coming on and telling me
Oh,
this
of
stuff,
course.
man. I really do. When when you and I know I think I've heard you tell me that you play guitar. I think we talked about that one
Yeah, yeah,
time.
you did in the past. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you look at like certain musicians, certain big bands, who do you think really was into this stuff? Who do you think really practiced magic? Like Beatles, Zeppelin, who really did
Oh,
it?
I do. I definitely think. I think at least John Lennon. You know, the Beatles. I think. Yeah, Zeppelin. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Believe it or not, I think when it comes to like those '70s bands or those rock bands, I think for the most part, a lot of them actually understood because you'll start seeing like. I'll even put it this way: you start like actually paying attention to eclipse symbolism. You start seeing that shit over a lot of rock and heavy metal bands. But I do actually believe a lot of them do. In my opinion, I think the magical experiences is what helps make the artist who they are. Because again, not I'm saying that it's Neo, but I think you will be able to learn better and become better at what you do with magic. But no, I'm trying to think of like maybe specifics. I do think Ozzy actually definitely knows. You know what I'm saying? Like people like him. I think Metallica, believe it or not. Megadeth for sure. Slayer for sure. Slayer for sure. Uh, yeah, a lot of the metal bands from back in the day, back then, I think they were definitely. If you were to go listen to a lot of their shit then now, they're not saying much different than a lot of conspiracy theorists were telling us too.
Yeah, yeah,
Wars and vaccinations are gonna humanity.
yeah. I mean, I've always been I've always heard too that Slayer was. I've heard from Slayer fans that I don't know, there's something I don't know if it's something they talked about in their lyrics or whatnot, but I've
The
always
lyric
heard,
stuff they say, I definitely think they've experienced what I have.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, and I saw an article the other day about Prashani from the Chili Peppers, that guitarist. He said he got deep into the occult for a little bit. He said he quit the band over it.
Who? Wait, say that again. Which one again?
Uh, the guitar player for the Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Oh, really?
John Frusciante. Yeah,
Holy shit.
I know.
I think they are. I know a lot of people. Listen, I will give Crowley credit. Like I'm sure a lot of people out there are Thelemites are into his idea of magic that are in like music and movies. I'm not sure if it's everybody, but like I have heard people somewhat suggest that their album Blood Sugar Sex Magic was, very much
Mhm.
Crowley-esque.
Yeah,
And there
and
was all right, another thing with the Beatles. Now, again, this isn't a ritual that Crowley wrote, but the Beatles' Help album, all those symbols that they're doing is actually stuff that you'll use in rituals. This is the sign of Osiris slain. Um, at one point, you will make the sign of a swastika for the morning of Isis. If you don't want to make the swastika, you go like this. You make an L shape. Somebody's doing that. The sign of Earth is almost basically doing the Heil Hitler sign. Ringo's doing that. And who else did I leave out? I don't know. All of those are actual either part of the LVX formula or the elemental sign of Earth. It's like literally when I saw that shit after I started practicing, I was like, "Oh, that's the." I do that right there on the Beatles' Help album.
Well, they seem like they were studying. It seems like there was almost like a a little, I don't know if I should call it a movement, or like it seemed like a lot of people from the 70s and maybe even the 60s, there was like an inclination for some of them to get into the occult, like Bowie, right?
Oh yeah, Bowie was big. He was big, kind of open with being into the Golden Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Was
then
he
again,
in
like
it?
the Golden, yeah, I think so. And then again, like see again, like these rituals that I'm explaining, the Golden Dawn were kind of. They say they originated with them. I don't think so, maybe, but those are Golden Dawn rituals that Crowley eventually incorporated into the Thelemic stuff. Star Ruby is his, but like the pentagram and the hexagram ritual is not his. They came from the Golden Dawn, technically.
Hmm. I would
Yeah.
think, I
So,
think,
and I do think what's his Bowie was into that shit.
yeah, yeah. I think too, like I've heard Danny Carey, drummer for Tool, is into Thelema.
He has he will have magical squares on his drums. And I don't know if he's specifically trying to hit certain areas on the magical squares to spell something out, but he does put magical squares on his he does put occult symbols on his films.
Well, his drums sound, some of his drum parts sound completely otherworldly, especially on that last album they put out. Uh Fear Inoculum.
Oh yeah.
That some of the drum parts on there, man, it doesn't even sound like it's a drum. Like he's doing crazy stuff. It sounds like some new instrument, some like something he invented.
I'm gonna go check that album out again today.
Oh, it's good.
So I have only listened to like a few parts of like a few songs, and that was it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
listen to his
I loaded with occult stuff.
Oh, probably. I should look at it again for that reason too. But I mean, like, listen to his drum parts, man. They are wild. Like, it's not. He's doing something new and something primitive at the same time. It's crazy. It's like tribal almost, shamanic.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But listen, man, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a really good
I had
conversation.
a blast. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, me too,
Actually,
man.
great questions too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, cool. Well, it's great information, man. It helps. Like when the information coming from the guests corner is good, the questions are good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm feeding off of that. But anyway, yeah, thanks for coming on. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, the Occult Rejects. That is on BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube, and all major podcasts. If you haven't heard of the show, it is basically focuses on the occult. We will touch on true crime sometimes if it includes the occult, sometimes paranormal, but we do try to kind of like focus more on occult ideas and topics. And there's probably about a total of 12 of us. We don't all show up on the show at the same time. We normally revolve around like anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 people at a time. So, we have different people on for different topics. It's a pretty interesting type of podcast. So check it out. It's different.
Yeah, and I mean I've heard some of the rejects, if not all of them. It's a group of people who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, and it's always, if you want to really get in deep into whatever topic it might be, your group of rejects, man, that you've compiled a nice community of people who have like great insight. So, and I'll leave it at that. As always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.